Have you been here last year in this workshop? No? Okay, that's going to be new. Good. Good.
All right. Basically, the aim of the workshop is to look at our context in Britannica. We have lots of different cultures and nationalities, and we all communicate with each other. So we're going to have a look at the different perspectives that each kind of culture might have, and look at some challenges we might have, some misconceptions, and some misunderstandings that could arise between us. So basically, we have 56 different nationalities at Britannica. It varies. Sometimes it's gone up to like 58 or down to 54, but there's a lot. And for most of our parent community, but also for many of our staff, English is the second language or the third language or the fourth language, and so that in itself presents some language barriers and challenges in that way. But on top of that, each culture has different norms, different expectations, different rules and conventions, and often these are very implicit, and they're not widely understood outside of a culture. And so this can lead to misunderstandings as well. And then furthermore, we often communicate between teachers and parents by email. That's the primary kind of form of communication. But without the context of facial expression or gestures and body language, that can also lead to misunderstanding as well. So we do have, having lots of cultures together is a beautiful thing, but it does present with some challenges, which is why we're introducing this workshop.
Before I'm going to say, I would like to introduce myself. Well, someone doesn't know me. I'm a school psychologist and the SCN coordinator, and also teach psychology in secondary. And I'm representing the Hungarian side in this workshop now today. For me, especially, the English is a second language. I learned English when I was 14 years old, so I educated in the Hungarian educational system. So the British system and the British culture was new for me when I came to this school 10 years ago. So it was a lot of small things that I was shocked by. Nothing special. We're gonna talk about the differences that we have between the British and the Hungarian culture. But I think it's good that we are talking about it because I have the perspective of the other side, how it feels and how it seems sometimes with the confusions. Which one would you compare out of the three?
How do you link them?
How would you link them? How would you put them as a group? How would you pair them? What would you pair with what out of these three?
Carrots and rabbits.
Carrot and rabbit. Dog and rabbit.
Dogs and carrots.
How would you put the dog and carrot? Well, my dog used to love carrots, so I mean, that's totally both cucumbers. They say that the East and the West culture have different thinking processes as well. And maybe some would pair the dog and the rabbit because they're animals. They get in the same group, while others would put the carrot and the rabbit together because the rabbit is a carrot. And basically what it's showing, this picture, is that how differently we even think. Not just we speak different languages, but due to different cultures, due to different upbringing, due to different places where we're coming from, we also have different way how we put together the two things, how we compare two things.
Oh yes, this is
the video?
Yeah, I will go up.
What are the different cultures this morning? Turkish?
Iran. Japanese. Korean.
Hungarian.
Dutch.
Hungarian.
Swedish.
So you have a mixture of different cultures, really good.
it's well known that some gestures mean different things in different parts of the world. In some places, such as Britain, this means everything's okay, while in Brazil and other places, it's considered obscene. And in still other places, such as Japan, it means money. In Italy, they might make this sign to emphasize a point, while in Jordan, it can mean, wait a second. Certain things often have gestures for them. For instance, in most places where drinking alcohol is popular, there's a sign for drinking or getting drunk. In the US, it's this. While in France, they grab and twist their nose, and in Russia, they flick their throat. On the other hand, some places have more or less unique gestures. In Russian, to say you're making things too complicated, you scratch your ear by going around the back of your head. Among the most common and probably oldest gestures are nodding for yes and shaking the head for no. But even this isn't universal. Bulgarians are famous for shaking their head to mean yes and nodding with a click of the tongue to mean no. And in South Asia, they have a third option, which involves tilting the head from side to side. It's used to acknowledge the person speaking to you, although in some contexts, it can also mean approval or even uncertainty.
Have you encountered any confusions or any misconceptions due to these gestures? Yes? I had when I started my career, I had a whole summer working as a volunteer psychologist in Saudi Arabia, and I was working with young children from different cultures, and this was the first time I actually see that some of the kids were doing this with their hands, and I didn't know whether it's yes or no, or what do they mean. It was so different, because in Hungary, yes, no, and that's it. There is no like heading, like this. It was really interesting for me to see that it's a different thing, it's a certain thing, it's just acknowledging what I'm saying. It's okay, I understand what you're saying, all is good. So it took me a while to understand it and just have an understanding of how different gestures mean. Do you have any specialty in your own culture? Has it been mentioned in the video? Yeah, we said this.
Yeah, kind of bad also, like bad sounds. I
Yeah,
don't
for
want
us,
to show
yeah, for us it's the same. It's the meaning of this one is the meaning of the like middle.
Oh, really? Sorry. Sorry. And with the drinking? In Hungary as well, I think we say this as well. And we
like for this one, like, it means like I'm broke.
okay. I don't think we have anything in the Hungarian culture, anything with the signs. Not really. The middle finger, yes.
Yeah.
This one is okay.
That's quite universal.
It's got universal. Drinking. But I think it also depends on the person. We do have a lot of hand gestures as well, but I think maybe not as specific as we have it in Italia, for example. If we have the certain people thinking of how they gesture, how they say things. Yeah.
Also, coaches, you know, to greet people. It's like kisses.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I think since COVID, the kissing has reduced because in Hungary we had the 2 kisses on each cheek, but I think it has been reduced since we had the COVID. So I think the kissing is not as popular as common anymore. Maybe between the family members, but not with friends anymore, not that much. I think we started to lose that kind of greeting. Even the hand is like hi, just more like
It's more of a
no touching,
fist bump.
no touching. Yes, yes.
So I think there are some. We're comparing British and Hungarian culture, but I'm sure you could think of how your own would fit in with this as well. And so British culture tends to be indirect. So it takes the British people a long time to get to what they mean, and there might be a lot of words at the beginning before they get to the point. And You don't just say something directly. In fact, it could be quite surprising to a British person if you get straight to the point. It might feel like, oh my goodness, there's the point, without all of the... I was wondering if you could, would you mind awfully, I'd be so appreciative if you could, and then you ask what you want. And there's all these words first. Whereas in Hungarian, you don't think
I think it's quite different in Hungarian. I think we're quite direct, and I had to learn to do this kind of thing. So when I'm writing my emails now, I know how to do this. I know how to have the extra words in it and get to the point, but I will still be more direct than Miss Forman, I think. And I also was talking to Mr. Willoughby, and there we had to go to a meeting, and he was like, you need to come because you're more direct than me, so you need to come because you're going to say like this, and I cannot do this. So he even pointed it out to them. I'm more straightforward, I'm more direct. It's also comes from my personality, I think, but it's also mainly from the Hungarian way, how we do it. Of course, we can also find a different ways and not immediately say everything directly, but I think we are not sugarcoating, we are not putting a lot of words around it. If you want to say something, we're going to say something. Even if it means sometimes that we are becoming harsh or something. So I'm not sure it's a positive or negative thing, but this is how we function.
I think there are positives and negatives to both sides, because people often miss the point for a British person not actually saying what they mean. And I think that something I talked with the teachers about as well is that actually I'm quite immune to the directness now, because I've lived outside of the UK for so long. I don't have that surprise that like somebody who's recently out of the UK would have if you were direct.
Have you met any of these specifics from the British culture, the Hungarian culture, from the school, for example?
British people might be a little more reserved as well, compared to other cultures. Might not be less likely to share too much personal information with someone they don't know very well.
Yeah. On the other side, I think we are more likely to share, but of course, I also believe there are a lot of individual differences between Hungarians and British as well. But personally, for example, it was always a difficulty and challenge for me not to share personal information. And the other one, I didn't put it there, but the small talk and the how are you?
Yeah.
When I came to the school and they asked me how I am, I actually answered. And I said, oh, I didn't sleep really well, and my dog was doing this, and they were like, and they already passed me because they were just actually saying hi to me with hi.
In the UK, there's only one correct answer to that question, and it's fine, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else, like, we don't want to know.
And then it was really surprising for me, because even though I was also spending the whole summer in America, when I was a student in university, they also used this hi, how are you, just like a greeting. And I came to the school and then they asked me, hi, how are you? I actually started to answer. But there is when I still am sorry. because I would like to share how I'm feeling, what happened with me yesterday, and not everybody is actually interested about it, but sharing personal information, I think, is more common with Hungarians rather than with the British
In Turkey
culture.
also like that, people give detailed answers.
Yes.
That's quite interesting, is indirect research. So I recall a scenario where there are 3 Hungarian parents, Dutch guy, direct, blunt, rude, and then you had a British teacher who was explaining something with enthusiasm with a lot of words.
Yeah.
We walked away and they were talking to each other. What the hell is talking about? They had no idea. And the teacher asked the teacher, do you think it was a conversation? Yeah, they seemed very engaged and they had no idea. There's a huge mismatch.
Yes.
The question for me would be also to learn today, should you come together to each other, or should you learn what the other one is doing, understand it better, or because in my office there's also many cultures, and it's very difficult to, you said I changed my emails.
Yes.
Right. So
I still have my directness in it, nicely put in there, but I have more words in there now. So I think the aim is to find the middle road, and basically just know about the other. Know that if they do something or they say something, they don't try to hurt you or being rude. This is how they are. This is how they function. This is how they communicate. So I think knowing about it is the most important thing.
I think understanding how we come across is important, because you could modify how you communicate. But I think the most important message is to consider where other people are coming from, and so we don't take offence from other people, and we have a better understanding of other people's communication. Yeah, we talked a bit about handshake and tactile greetings. I always feel quite anxious about the kisses because some people do one, some people do two, and then some people do three, and it's very confusing. I don't know what to do. So yeah, that can be stressful. Then there's also this British people can be quite cynical. Just if you look at the British press, there's always you always imagine bad intentions. That seems to be a very British trait. I don't know why. There you go.
And we are super pessimistic, and I don't think it has changed. I don't think it will change. I think it's due to always preparing for the worst. Always preparing for the worst, because you never know what's going to happen. I think it's due to the war, due to the history as well, and this is always taking the wrong side, always taking the wrong direction. So I think it's it's in our culture. This is how we are embedded actually. And my husband's sister's husband is a French guy, and he's so optimistic and he's so different. And then sometimes it's really surprising how he has a different view of things, and we are just there sitting there super sad and super pessimistic about everything. So yeah, nothing will change, you see.
In British culture, you tend to be a bit more open to the unknown and open to change, whereas...
Well, I think, and it's again, there are huge individual differences, but I think avoidance of the unknown for Hungarians is more common than for British. We are more rigid in that way, I think. We like the things how they are, not much change. Not much change. My husband always says that everything was better back then. He's only 34, so I'm not sure what he's talking about, but everything was better back then because he doesn't like changes, he doesn't like to try new things, and it just same goes with my mom and my other family members. So my small sample size does say that we are not really open to any unknown because it's scary. You never know what to expect. Again, going back to pessimistic. What if something goes wrong? So you need to be prepared.
It's worth noting as well that most British people tend to be monolingual. They speak only one language, and even though for me, I've lived in Thailand, in China. In China, I made an effort. I tried to learn the language. I had lessons. I tried really hard. I wasn't very good, and I've lost a lot now. And in Hungary, it's really hard. But when you have a group of people who tend to be monolingual, they don't have as much empathy as well. So for people who are speaking in another language, they don't realise the struggle and the misinterpretation as well as somebody who is bilingual and have been through that journey themselves as well.
Yes, we must speak different languages because no one speaks Hungarian. So, and it's a really difficult language, I think. And due to that fact that it's a difficult language, I think we are also really good at learning new languages because we have these skills. So most of the Hungarians, hopefully now, but especially in Budapest, of course, they do speak more than one languages. If you go further and further, they speak less and less and less. But English, German, I think is quite common. And from my parents' side, it's more like Russian. They bring the Russian language.
Okay, so if we think about what kind of problems could occur between particularly teachers and parents, more of the teachers tend to be British, and so that's why I've got this one. So obviously there are language barriers that occur. The email is wonderful because you can email each other in your native language, and then the Outlook or Google will translate it for you, and then the teacher can write back in English and you can translate it back. But that can work, but there are mistranslations and things that mean different things. And there can be problems with that. I think we've talked a bit about directness can cause offence. Sometimes teachers come to me and say, well, I've just got this email. I think this parent's really angry. And I read it and I say, I don't think so. I think they're just being very direct.
Yeah.
They're not angry. They're just asking information. And they're like, oh, okay. Because they may not have understood that's just how that culture communicates or that person communicates. And sometimes teachers can say things to you and their message is lost because it's surrounded by lots and lots of words, and the main message is just buried in all these other words. And I think we tend to have an assumption that other people are quite similar to us, and that other people are thinking in the same way as we do, and that is not the case. And I think that's when you were looking at the rabbit and the dog and the carrot. Actually, something as simple as making connections between those animals and objects, that we think differently, and I think assuming that other people are going to interpret things the same way or take our words the same way as they're intended can lead to problems. So always just assume that people actually have good intentions. Nobody wants to go out and offend other people, and so I think it's just building tolerance and not just assuming that people have taken your words as intended. As well.
It also links back to metacognitive skills, because if you are able to mentalize and have this metacognition about how the other person is thinking, then it's less likely to have confusion because you can put yourself in the other person's position. But it's a really difficult skill, and not everybody is able to do it. And research actually says that men are less likely to do it. They are not as good as mentalizing the other person's perspective and putting themselves in their shoes and making those assumptions what the others are having for you. And I think this is where it comes with the language as well, and with the body language and the nonverbal communication and everything, that you need to be able to put yourself in the other person's position. And so that's really difficult. But if you are able to do so and have that perspective, then there's less likely confusion, less likely offensive, less likely to get any negative feelings towards it.
Now, the fun part.
Not yet, we are just making the noises.
Oh yeah.
Just making the noises.
Oh, this is the fun part too. Yeah. Okay, yeah, this is fun too.
Do you have any noises for each of these animals in your own languages? What does the dog do?
Woof.
Wow.
Wow, wow.
Wow.
Love, love.
How long?
And the cat? Meow. Meow. Okay, that's the same. Okay. And the horse? We say nihaha in Hungarian. Nihaha.
We say nay.
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 Why? They don't say nay. And the pig? Oink. Ruff, 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 ruff. The rooster?
In Japanese, yeah.
And we have kukuriku. Kukuriku. And the frog?
Rabbit.
Why would the frog say rabbit? Brekeke. Brekeke. Yeah, that also makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And the cow? Moo. Good. Snake?
Hiss.
Yes. Yes. My daughter now, she speaks because she's 3 years old, but I remember when she was just 1, and then I was counting how many words she has, whether she's making the right development, and apparently also counts words and how you make the sounds of different animals. It's also counts as a word itself. And then she had all these animal voices, and then when I said the animal, and she would have immediately say how the how the noises do these animals make. I think it's also a really good example to show how different it can be from different cultures, even though we're talking about the same animals. And in Britain, the frog would say rabbit, while we would say brekeke. So, just another example showing that how different it can be.
Just a little bit.
And this one is the exercise. Oh, we need more pen? Yes. Well, if you have a pen already, you can draw a house. You can draw a house. I would like to draw a house. Sorry. So how does your house look like? I will draw the same. That's my house as well. Yeah. Yep. Really interesting. That's the first thing you think of as a house.
Civil engineers.
It's really interesting. Look at that house.
Oh, cool.
This is the modern one. Like the garage and the entrance is another way.
Yeah, that would be my house as well. The house. With a roof. Yeah.
Old fashioned.
Wow. What about the dog? No, a fence. A fence. You can also draw a fence around the house. I cannot draw a dog. And the sun, cat, horizon. Dog, cat? Yeah. I don't know how to draw a horizon. You take a picture for it.
I'm taking copy, but still not enough.
Good. I think the house was a really good example to show how different, oh, really cute ones.
Yes.
And their son? That's a really interesting one as well. I'm not trying to look at it as a school psychologist perspective, no. No analyzing, just to see the different cultures, how it affects. There's the horizon. because it seems like the Asian and the Hungarian house is quite the same.
Oh, really?
It's really, really similar. It's really similar. But I think in the Hungarian state school, the house, when we are learning it, I think this is the basics. This is how we do it. I don't remember whether we are learning to draw houses, but how is your house?
Same as yours.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd always have a square and a triangle on top. That's how
What
you do it.
is exercise telling us again?
Imagination.
Imagination?
I think it's more about personal preferences than
Also
culture.
personal preferences in there. So not just the culture, but the personal preferences. And how others are thinking actually. That even just with a simple drawing, we can see how different we are. How even in between the culture, we also have differences and how we do it. It's a really simple exercise, and of course, the personal drawing skills are also playing a role in it, but generally how different we are. Yes, yours is the picture.
Okay. So this is just basically two scenes. No, it's not. It's a picture. Two scenes. Both are. One is from the west, and one is from the east. And they're both of a river scene. And it's just a different perspective of the one in the west has the horizon is quite low. It's quite realistic. You can see that the importance is put on the buildings and the realism and the realistic perspective, as if you were, say, a boat on that river. Whereas in the east, the horizon is much higher, as if you're looking down, because the interesting things is what is happening on the ground. Is the interesting things are what the people are doing. The focus is on the detail rather than the perspective of the whole scene. It's just two different ways of looking at a scene, two different focuses depending on culture. But as we have also seen, there are differences. There's more individual differences within a culture than between them. So we are being very generalistic. So. Okay. So cross-communication can easily happen for a number of reasons, and I think just being aware of what those reasons are will help us avoid cross-communication. So first of all, people, as I mentioned this before, people tend to assume that others think the same way as us, have similar intentions and understandings as we do, whereas that is not the case. We do have different ways of thinking, different understanding, different conventions and rules, and so we need to understand that how others behave and act may have different intentions, and more often than not it will be good intentions as well, so don't assume that people are breaking your rules or offending you on purpose. Obviously, language differences is a huge one when lots of people are talking in their second or third or fourth language. So it's easy to misunderstand. I think when there is a misunderstanding, say by email, it's important to then talk about it face to face, because there is then extra context. Something that is in an email could be misunderstood, and you may think that that's rude or that's not very nice. Whereas if you were talking face to face, you would see the facial expression, you would see the body language, and also the person you're communicating with will be able to see your facial expression, go, and then would be able to clarify.
I think it even goes with just normal text. So if you think about it, you're sending text to your friends or sending text to your family members, so you usually use some emojis sometimes. And I think with the emojis you try to also suggest how you feel about this message. While these emails, we don't usually use emojis, or it's quite rare. There are some families, I remember that there are some families who are sending a lot of emojis as well, but from the teacher's email you don't really get an emoji. So sometimes you would maybe misunderstand the tone of the voice, even though there's nothing rudeness, nothing rigidness in it, but there still can be sound like really firm, but it's just basically the message itself.
I can give you an example recently, actually. I had written an email and someone had taken offense to it, and I had written, oh, it's a shame that they can't come to Springford. They had something else, and the person was very upset that I had said that. So we met in person, and it turns out they thought I was saying to them, you should be ashamed of yourself for not coming to Springford. And in person, it's like, no, I mean, it's a shame. It's like it's a British saying, like, that's sad. Oh, I'm sorry, that's sad, that's a shame. Not you should be ashamed. And it was very different meaning. But in person, we're able to clarify really easily. And if I had said, oh, that's a shame in person, they would have known from my facial expression and my gestures that I wasn't saying you should be ashamed of yourself. So that's why it's important, like if there has been a miscommunication and someone's either upset with you or you're upset with somebody, to then talk face to face, because it's much easier to iron out those misunderstandings. There can be non-verbal misinterpretations as well. This is something that can happen face-to-face. Some cultures, it's a sign of respect to make eye contact, and some cultures it's a sign of respect not to make eye contact. And if you don't understand those things, then you could think someone is being disrespectful to you. So it's always worth considering the context. We were talking as well about hand gestures that could mean everything's okay, whereas in Brazil you might say, oh my gosh, that's rude. And so it's important to understand we do have different ways of expressing ourselves. Some cultures will be very expressive with their hands, and others will not. And some people will misinterpret those kind of expressions as well. Yes, we tend to analyse other people's interactions from our own point of view. I think everything we've said to this point.
Yeah, it goes back to this whole mentalization and how we analyze someone's behavior, someone's communication, or someone's gestures or anything. We are doing it from our point of view, and we assume things. And I think that's that leads to a lot of misunderstandings and difficulties sometimes with communication, because we attempt to assume that the others are quite the same, or they also think the same thing, or we have these thoughts that they would like something happen to us that we don't think that would like to happen to us. So I think the assumption itself is the biggest challenge. And if we have an understanding of how other people can think differently, we are saving a lot of time and also saving a lot of difficulty to not make any.
Okay, so it's worth also noting that when you're talking to somebody from a different culture, and you know that they're going to have a different culture from you, and you know they have rules and conventions that you may not fully understand, it can, and you know that you're talking in a different language and so are they than is your first language, it can make you feel anxious. It can make you feel worried or concerned. And so I think if we understand that that's where we're all kind of coming from, and none of us want to offend each other, none of us, we're all part of a community, that we've chosen to be part of an international community because it is different and it is beautiful to all come together and get to know each other's cultures. But there will be misunderstandings, and if we all approach with empathy and understanding that we're all in the same position, we all have good intentions, we want to communicate, we want to get to know each other, but we will make mistakes, and we forgive each other for making mistakes, then I think then we will be part of a loving community. Okay, so tips for avoiding cross-cultural communication. I think avoiding slang is more something I would tell maybe British teachers, because often British people will communicate with each other in kind of slang terms, but then if you're American, from New Zealand, from Australia, from South Africa, also have a first language, English, still can't understand what you're talking about because it is culturally specific. So we do try to avoid slang.
And I think they do avoid. I don't hear a lot of slangs.
Yeah.
I don't hear a lot of slangs. I was just thinking back if I have any email exchanges between colleagues, and I remember the first one I heard about round robin.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what they are talking about. Is that a new person? Is it an extra person? Who is Robin? And I have no idea what they were talking about. Maybe it's not a slang, but that phrase for me was really unfamiliar, and I had no idea what they were talking about. So, but I think it's less. I don't need any of the slangs recently. Or maybe I know them now. It can be that as well.
I think it's always helpful to speak slower than you normally would if you were talking to your family or someone back home. If you're talking to someone who you know English is not their first language or it's second or third, then it's easier to speak more slowly. Also, to try and avoid closed questions. In some cultures, it's actually rude to say no, and so you will get the answer yes, even though the answer is really no. Actually, British can be a bit like that too. Like if someone says, "Do you want to do this?" and you're like, "Oh gosh, I really don't want to do that." The response might be, "Could do." Oh no, definitely not. But other cultures also have this kind of, you don't want to give a negative response. So it's better to give an open question where people can properly communicate.
And is it also true that asking a direct question in an email is also really inappropriate in the British culture? Or is it okay to ask questions, like a direct question?
It is okay, but you're supposed to preamble it with lots of flowery stuff.
Okay, because I've been told that it's not really always polite to ask a direct question in the email itself, and I have a tendency to do it, because I want to know. I want to know the answer, I want to know.
I think it's okay, but you don't just come in straight with the direct question, you have to...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some tips for keeping it up. Avoid humour. I think jokes and humour tends to be culturally specific and doesn't translate very well between cultures and can be misunderstood and even thought of as offensive or confusing. British culture tends to use sarcasm, which doesn't always translate between the UK and Australia. They understand it very well. With the US, not so much. But lots of cultures don't quite understand that kind of sarcastic element to humour. It sounds rude. So we tell British people not to use sarcasm. To be supportive and to be patient, I think that we're all trying our best to communicate just be patient with each other. Listen to understand, try and think of it from other people's contexts and that it's not the same. I think the minute we start to realise that other people don't think the same as us and they don't mean the same things, they can say the same thing and mean something different, then it helps us to build that empathy and understanding. So looking for meaning, don't just take words at face value. Start to look at what the intended meaning could be from their context as well, and accept that we are all different, and that's what makes our communities very special. Don't assume, always ask questions and clarify. I think when we feel that someone has been rude to us, then it can be tempting just to come back and say, well, how dare you speak to me like that? Or why would you say that? Whereas actually, most people do not intend to be rude, and in most instances, it is a misunderstanding. So when you feel that someone has been rude to you, ask questions. Try and find out, is that really what you meant? And try and find out what the true intention was, because 9 times out of 10, it will be a good intention and just poorly put. Ask for feedback as well. How am I doing? How is my communication? Because it will help you build your understanding of how you communicate with others as well. just to be open-minded. We are all different, and
I think that it's a lot of things to consider when you're having a conversation with someone. So if you need to put everything in your mind and follow these tips to avoid any confusion or misunderstanding, that's going to be a lot and take a lot of your energy, and then just miss the love of the communication itself. I think that the main message here is that just being open-minded. Just being open-minded and know that we are all different. And if you've been in my SCN workshop where I was talking about autism or ADHD, it's the same message. Just be open-minded and understand that we're all different and they have different perspectives, different understanding, different way of thinking. They find different things funny than we are, so and so on. And if you have this mindset, if you start this mindset in yourself to understand that they're all different, we have different understanding, I think that's the basic that can help you. Not just in communication in a cross-cultural community, but also in every field. Yes, I looked into it. I also have some notes because I understand it now, and it's really, really useful. I would like to go through with this last checklist. So, how the communication should be understood. Language culture is the basic that language is not just about what we say, but also how we say it due to our culture, due to how we have been raised, due to where we are living. So it's not just about what we say, but also how we say it. Then the verbal tracking means that you should always be able to track what the others are saying. Try to be present and understand, and try to listen to not just the words, but also how they communicate. Verbal patience is a really good one, and I think we also mentioned it as well, that you need to be patient and need to be able to listen to the other person and then wait what they would like to say. Tone of voice, as we also mentioned, is not just about what we say, but the voice, how we say it. Then the tone of voice itself can be really easy to understand when we are speaking face-to-face, but when we are in the email or when we are in text, then the tone of voice can be misinterpreted. But if you know that it's one way to say it, or the other way to say it, that can be really helpful. Modes of presentation, it can be a really direct way, saying what I want, but it can be also through like a local dialogue or like storytelling as well, what my message would like to be. The cultural pragmatic rules, this is basically the whole presentation was about how culturally different we are, that we have different ways of gestures, different ways of communications. The low and high context, what was that?
The context when it's situational, so you've got lots of context to put it on it to help interpret the communication. So maybe face to face in a set context, then you know what kind of communication to expect.
So different context itself have a different expectation how you realize, how you speak. So it's a different context now that we are having a presentation rather than just having a chat between us. And the verbal code switching.
That was from being talking very informally to then switching to a more formal register. So when you're talking to one of the year ones, you will change your register when you're talking to them to when you're talking to Mr. McGarry, to when you're talking to a parent or another teacher. Each time the words you choose, your facial expressions and the simplicity of your sentences or the complexity of your sentences will change according to the context and who you're talking to, your audience. I think that's it. Yes. Okay.
Any questions?
For this opportunity, students could take lesson or class like this often?
Yes, because of the PSHE lessons, they always have with different topics talking about different fields of the communication, different fields of emotion, different fields of cultures as well. So through the PSHE lessons and also I think through topic lessons, they always encounter these messages as well.
And children are actually much more open-minded than we are. They're much more accepting. They're just like, oh, you do it that way, okay. And they don't even think about it. So this is much harder for us.
Yeah. Plus they are living in an intercultural culture. Yeah. They are having their everyday life in this culture, where there is no
questions about who is who or what is what, because we are just all different. So they have a different, and I think it's easier for them than for us.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had some small events like attacking others' nationality. So yeah, I think I need to like this lesson with students. Yeah.
Of course, what is happening around the world, and where we have the wars and where we have the different conflicts in the world, it also has an effect here, because we have different cultures here. But the teachers are there to support the students in this way, and then they have an open communication about it, and then they are actually seeing that, okay, just because I'm coming from this culture, and you're coming from this culture, doesn't mean we cannot be friends, just because our leaders are having a different mindset.
To children, they're just friends. Like, it doesn't really make a difference where you're from, or what language you speak at home, or what food you eat.
Of course, it's also coming from home. So how you speak about a different culture has a huge effect on how the child is going to react to a different culture. Because what they see, what they hear, they're going to mirror it.
I think the children are aware of not especially behaviors, they're aware of the physical changes, differences. I mean, the colors, the body differences, or any specific thing regarding with maybe religious, maybe cultural, blah blah. So they are taking the details more than us. They are not looking maybe. I mean, what they say, but they are really interested in the physical things more. I mean, especially it's depending on their maybe age, that's why. So maybe you can make more things for us to be respectful about the cultural and class and religious differences also. Because I told some small details to also Miss Mary, so maybe they can be aware of the, I mean, these details. Also some movements, hand gestures, some face gestures, they can be also copied, and sometimes they can bully these things. So maybe we can do more things for them to be more respectful.
Yes. The open communication and talking about these things are the most important thing.
Yeah, it's definitely something we don't do in PSHCE, which is we talk about there are some things that are different about us. We do think in different ways. We look different. We celebrate different holidays and those kind of things. But there are many more things that are the same about us as well. And difference is celebrated. And children do notice different skin colour, eye colour, body differences. They do notice these things, but they don't really attach any meaning to it. There's no negative feelings about it. It's just like, my friend has this colour skin, I have this colour skin. That's that. It's quite nice, without judgment.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.